work has been done by our distillery team. So David Turner and his team at the distillery, it's a team effort, but they have played a huge part in this. But yeah, this year's fresh bottling was a single cask Oloroso sherry, but matured Bowmore that was actually put into cask in 2016. So it was only actually an 8-year-old.
I mean, it did not taste like an 8-year-old.
Exactly. So at the forefront of this was the ability to use 100% floor malted in the mash bill. So that's all the peat that's been used to dry the malt has come from Islay. So you get that rich medicinal character in there, and then that peat's been used to dry the malt in the floor maltings to about 20-25 parts per million in phenols. So you've got that complexity I talked about from using the floor maltings. It really does give layers of flavour right at the start of the process, and that very much through the various parts of the distillery process. Again, long fermentation, etc., right through to the new make distillate. I gave a Bowmore that was just more layered than our normal new make distillate.
And it really is incredible. I think just to taste it and just to get that kind of that fruit bomb.
Yeah.
And I think what the team have also done with the sherry cask ones, I remember just tasting it as we launched them this time last year, and I just remember tasting the 15 and the 18 going, oh my goodness. And I think Bowmore has, and that's why people love Bowmore, it's got that really wonderful core of fruit, and it's amazing that floor malting is just enhancing that.
Yeah, it just gives it a weight so that it can stand up to the power of a sherry cask maturation, because that's in itself quite a rich, sweet, weighty, maturation style. And Bowmore, we did use the tagline, it ages like no other, but it's true.
Yep.
It works really well in bourbon, the more delicate side of bourbon, but also in a weightier maturation environment of a sherry cask or a wine cask. It works, and you get all that complexity and layered flavour.
And honestly, if anyone gets hold of that fish bottling, I'm here. Laphroaig. So I think Laphroaig is the complete other end of the spectrum. And I think it's a Marmite whiskey. People love it, or they're like, what is this? And it's that medicinal character for me that really, like, you put your nose into it and you're like, even like the older styles, you get that medicinal note. Where is that coming from? And like, how different is it to make Laphroaig, and why is it Laphroaig, basically?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate within our portfolio of our 5 distilleries that we have 3 that have a peaty element, and it's, you've almost, how I see it, is a lighter peaty style at Ardmore on the mainland. You've got the kind of more medium peated level at Bowmore, which then develops all fruity characters, floral characters, as you said, in line with the more delicate peat. And then you've got the bold,
the beast.
Yes, absolutely unmistakable, unapologetically peated character of Laphroaig. So again, talked about my job being the best in the world, the variety I get, that's just one example. But in terms of what makes Laphroaig, it very much starts at the raw material part of the process. So extensively within our mash bill, the malt that's used has been dried with Islay peat. So again, the provenance of where the peatlands are is very much critical. A mainland peatland or peat bog very much gives different characters when it's smouldering versus an Islay peat bog. So the fact that we have access to the fantastic peat bogs on Islay very much drives that rich, medicinal, earthy type phenol character, which we then utilise. George Campbell and his team do a great job again. We carry out a cold smoking process to really ham up, amplify up the phenol characters to up to 70 parts per million in the main, which the cold smoking process allows that absorption onto the wet malting barley before the drying process to bring it down to the level that we can then mill. So that very much that high phenol, high smoky, rich character starts at that point, and then during the process, George and the team make sure they try and, well, they retain that phenol characters through carrying out a semi-clear wort pull out like one. If we did a clear wort like we do at Glengarry, that would strip out a lot of that phenolic peaty character, like having that semi-cloudy wort that helps retain as much of that phenol character to then after distillation be present in the new mate distillate.
And I think for me, Laphroaig, I think in certain distilleries, there's certain oak types that just work. And I love peat and sherry. I think it's just such a fantastic combination. And again, Lefroy takes those sherry casks
Absolutely.
so well. And that part of that kind of cooler sort of malting and getting a little bit more weight to the spirit as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, Lefroy, we typically, when I was thinking about our range, we typically match Lefroy up with bourbon barrel maturation, but we do, as you say, we've got expressions like Lefroy 10-year-old sherry cask, which is phenomenal, and Lefroy PX as well. So again, a different sherry seasoning to the cask as well, and it's like two powerful forces colliding, but it works, and then they interact with each other as well, and just give something with lots of depth and a huge unforgettable experience when you nose it and taste it.
So I was in Lefroy and actually Bamore about a month ago, and I've decided that my favourite Lefroy is anything over 30 years old in sherry. I can't afford that, but just aged Lefroy just has this complexity and it's wonderful. It's almost like that smoke just kind of rounds out and gives a kind of different dimension as it ages. Honestly, fantastic. Big fan.
Yeah. I do like once you go beyond 25 and 30, as you say, the peat doesn't reduce by any means, but I think the other complexities that people maybe don't think about for Lefroy, because everyone talks about the phenols, the smoke, the peat, but there's lots of complexities underneath, and as it ages, those other factors catch up, in particular the fruitiness for me starts to pick up. So when you get to 30 and beyond, you can quite, if you're used to drinking, the Lefroy 10-year-old or whatever, you maybe don't appreciate it's a Lefroy until you really delve into it and have a couple of sips, and the fruitiness that comes through as you get to older Lefroy's is, it's amazing. It's amazing to see it evolve. Incredible.
And I think something that's really important right now in the Scotch industry, and the Scotch industry is doing amazing steps, is sustainability.
Yeah.
How important, how central is that as a tenet for what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so we want to delight our consumers, whether it be in the UK, whether it be in the Far East, etc., with phenomenal whiskies, but we do realise that we have a responsibility in terms of our processes to make sure that we are minimising our impact on the environment, because obviously, if I take distilling in particular, it's a very energy-driven process to make a new made distillate. So within our wider business, we very much adhere to our proof positive philosophy within our operations. So a couple of examples we obviously have Ardmore, Bamore, and Lefroy as part of our portfolio, which are peated whiskies. So therefore, to make that peated whisky, we need peat to do that. So we have committed by 2040 to not only replace and regenerate peatlands, not only to replace what we've taken, we're actually going to put double what we've taken as well. So it's about 2,600 hectares, of which currently we've invested about $4 million. So that's basically regenerating, restoring peatlands across Scotland, basically to give back what we've taken. But peat is actually the most efficient carbon sponge there is.
Yes.
So by taking that, you're very much affecting the environment. So that's part of the reason for us looking to restore that. As part of our our
sustainability.
Yeah.
And someone told me it's how also you cut the peat, that if you cut it in a certain way, you don't allow a bit underneath to die, then actually it is much better. I know you guys are doing that.
Yeah.
It's fantastic to hear things like that, because, as you say, sustainability has to be a big part of what we do. So, one of my last questions, because I do have a bonus bowl question. For you, what have been some of your favourite whiskies that you've worked on over the years?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to work, again, across the portfolio. Different challenges, different flavour profiles, different ages of spirit. But I guess a few examples recently. I think within the Lefroy family, if I can talk about a range, the Elements range was a real amazing set of whiskies to work on. That was very much about looking at the distillery processes. Number one was looking at the wort clarity, the introduction of floor maltings, amongst other things. elements too. Was looking at the different fermentation length of times and blending those different times from different batches together, again to give a different take on the Lafroig signature style.